Hey guys, so today I want to talk a little bit about why free speech is so important. Now, a lot of people think free speech is important because it's nice to be able to say what you think, right? And I don't disagree with that, but that's not why it's so important. It's important because it advances our civilization. Let me explain. So every day, millions of people have conversations with friends, family members, co-workers, or they read something where people exchange ideas and viewpoints. This happens millions of times a day, every day, day after day, year after year. So over time, the better ideas and viewpoints, those are the ones that stand up to scrutiny and cross-examination, tend to rise to the top. And the worse ideas and viewpoints that don't stand up to scrutiny tend to go by the wayside. So our ideas as a society get better and better over time. Now, it doesn't happen overnight because all of us human beings are inflicted with a terrible mental disorder known as confirmation bias. And with confirmation bias, a lot of times we don't want to accept any evidence that's contrary to what we already believe, even if, and especially when, it proves we're wrong. We would actually rather cling to our wrong viewpoint than admit we were wrong and become right. It's really pathetic and it slows us down, but it doesn't stop the progress. It still happens, it just takes longer. So some people may think, well, okay, free speech is fine, but what about hate speech? We need to ban that, right? Wrong. We shouldn't ban hate speech for two reasons. Number one, true hate speech, like racism, for example, is very easy to poke holes in and discredit. There is no data or logical basis to prove that one race is better than another. And for that reason, you don't need to ban it. It's very easy to discredit and disprove. But the second reason, and I would argue even more important, is because if you're going to ban hate speech, somebody has to be put in charge of determining what is hate speech. And whoever that person or people are just became the most powerful people in the country. Because anything they don't like is going to be deemed hate speech and will be banned. Now you may think, oh no, they wouldn't do that. People never abuse power. When has that ever been a thing? Well, sadly, it is a thing, and it tends to be the rule a lot more than the exception. The old saying is, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That would definitely apply here because they would have absolute veto power over free speech. The only reason you need to ban speech is if you don't like it and you can't prove that it's wrong. Let me give you an example. 1543, Nicholas Copernicus, a Polish astronomer and mathematician, released his life's work proving that the sun was the center of the solar system, known as heliocentricity. At that time, most people believed the Earth was the center of the solar system because, when you look up in the sky, it looks like everything's orbiting around us. But using science and mathematics, Copernicus proved that the sun had to be the center of the solar system. He had actually finished the work years earlier, but was afraid to release it because of cancel culture. He was afraid of the backlash. He knew people weren't going to like it. And he was right. Shortly after he released it in 1543, it was banned by the church for 200 years. Now, why did they ban it? Because they didn't like what it said, and they couldn't prove it was wrong. If they could prove it or discredit it, they didn't need to ban it. But they couldn't. And they couldn't because Copernicus was right. So they banned it. Years later in 1610, Galileo, doing his own research completely independent of Copernicus, released his work proving heliocentricity was correct. Again, the backlash was almost immediate. He was forced to publicly recant his statement supporting heliocentricity, and he was banned from ever teaching or defending the doctrine of heliocentricity in the university. Does this sound familiar to you? And the reason that that this was banned was because the powerful people did not like it, and they couldn't disprove it because it was right. And that's the only time speech needs to be banned, is when you don't like it and you can't disprove it because it's right. Just remember this: all throughout history, the people who are banning free speech are never the good guys.